Hey guys, today we're diving into another truly horrifying case. If you want to support my channel, be sure to subscribe and stay active. It really helps me out, and I'd be super grateful for that. Let's get started. She was used to being in the spotlight. Millions knew her name. Her image was instantly recognizable, and her life played out for the world to see. To some, she was an inspiration. To others, an object of admiration or envy. But no one truly knew her. No one saw what lay behind the perfect picture. Mercedes Moore lived in a world where fame brought opportunities but also posed risks. Among her followers were not just fans, but people who believed they had a right to her attention. One of them was convinced he knew her better than anyone. One of them decided their meeting was inevitable. Now, her phone was silent. Messages remained unread. From the outside, everything looked the same, but inside, a nightmare was unfolding. Janae Gainier was born in 1987 in Los Angeles to Mark and Janetta Gainier. Her parents were known for their discipline and structure, traits shaped by their military background. They met while serving in the armed forces, but after marrying, they decided to leave that life behind and focus on building a business. Their ultimate goal was to open a restaurant, which later became their life's work. Janae was the eldest child and, in time, became the older sister to two younger girls. She maintained a warm and trusting relationship with them. Her parents raised their daughters in an environment of discipline, but without excessive strictness. They instilled a sense of responsibility while also encouraging independence and initiative. This approach helped shape Janae's entrepreneurial mindset from a young age. From early childhood, she was energetic, curious, and had a natural way with people. Her outgoing nature kept her at the center of attention, and her charm and confidence made her popular among her peers. Janae was persistent. Once she set her mind to something, she wouldn't stop until she achieved it. At 12, she found a way to earn her own money. She set up a small makeshift hair braiding studio in the garage of her family's home. At first, her clients were just friends and classmates, but soon word spread throughout the neighborhood. Before long, women lined up in the evenings, eager to get her signature braids. This small business gave Janae her first taste of financial independence. But her carefree childhood came to an abrupt end when she turned 14. Her parents decided to separate, and the divorce was anything but smooth. Conflicts and arguments followed, leaving a lasting impact on Janae. In the end, her father moved to Texas, a decision that shook her to her core. She remained in Los Angeles with her mother and sisters, but now her life was split between two worlds. Part of her time was spent with her mother, the other with her father. She found herself regularly traveling back and forth between states. This period had a profound impact on her personality. She became more short-tempered, withdrawn, and sharp in her responses. Her school performance declined, and tensions with her mother escalated. To her parents, it seemed like typical teenage rebellion, but in reality, Janae was struggling to cope with the breakdown of her family. Over time, the strain in her relationship with her parents began to ease. As she grew older, Janae was able to accept the situation and establish a new dynamic with both her mother and father. Gradually, she regained her balance, rekindled her energetic spirit, and once again earned the respect and admiration of those around her. By the time she graduated high school, Janae was determined to be successful in life. Though she hadn't yet figured out exactly how, she completed her education with solid grades and enrolled in college, planning for her future. Jana had always envisioned herself pursuing a career in dentistry, but fate had other plans. After graduating high school, she enrolled in college with the goal of becoming a dental assistant. At the time, it seemed like a stable and reliable career path that would provide her with financial security and a solid foundation for the future. However, just a few months into her studies, she realized that the field wasn't the right fit for her. The coursework felt dry and uninspiring, and the idea of working in the dental field long-term no longer seemed appealing. After much thought, Jana made a difficult decision. She dropped out of college, despite her parents' objections. Her choice shocked them, as they had hoped their eldest daughter would follow a more traditional career path that would lead to stability and success in a conventional way. It was around this time that Jana met a young man. and their relationship progressed quickly. He suggested that they move to Las Vegas, promising that the city offered more opportunities to build an independent life and achieve financial freedom. Excited by the possibility of a fresh start, Jana agreed. But relocating to a new city turned out to be a major challenge. Las Vegas, a city that never sleeps, was full of opportunities but also required financial security and a solid survival plan. Without a degree or work experience, finding a reliable source of income was difficult. Jana explored various options, but most offered low pay and grueling hours, with little room for advancement. One day, through acquaintances, she learned about an opportunity to work at a nightclub. What caught her attention was the potential to earn significantly more than in traditional jobs that didn't require a college degree. Despite her initial doubts, her financial situation pushed her to give it a try. Her first few shifts were challenging. She wasn't sure if this line of work was right for her, and she felt uncomfortable and uncertain. However, she soon realized that her earnings outweighed her concerns. On average, she was making around $5,000 a week, enough to cover rent, enjoy a comfortable lifestyle, and even start saving. Over time, her perspective on the industry began to shift. What initially seemed like a temporary solution gradually evolved into a long-term career move. She began to see that working in the entertainment industry wasn't just about earning money. It was also a way to build valuable connections. Many of the club's patrons were wealthy individuals, celebrities from the music and sports industries, and successful entrepreneurs. Jana observed how other women in her field used their work as a stepping stone to bigger opportunities. However, when her family discovered what she was doing, their reaction was not positive. They couldn't accept the fact that Jana had turned away from a traditional career path in favor of a profession they saw as questionable. Tensions and disappointment grew, leading to frequent conflicts that strained their relationship. Her family tried to convince her to return to a more stable and socially accepted career, but Jana stood firm in her decision. She emphasized that she was making a conscious choice, was happy with her life, and was earning well, but this wasn't enough to change their view. In their eyes, their daughter had given up a promising future for an easy yet unrespected source of income. Over time, however, the pressure from her family began to ease. They realized that Jana was determined in her choices and had no intention of changing her lifestyle. Still, the gap in how they viewed her career remained unresolved. For Jana, this period marked a turning point. She had gained financial independence and newfound confidence, enabling her to shape her future on her own terms. She now had access to opportunities that were previously out of reach, marking the beginning of her rise to broader recognition. While working in the entertainment industry, Jana understood that in order to advance, she needed to create a striking and memorable image. It was during this time that she came up with the stage name Mercedes Moore. The new name had to sound bold, command attention, and set her apart from others. The experience she gained in her early nightclub jobs helped her develop a strategy for building her personal brand. She focused on working in venues that allowed her to refine her image and attract the right kind of attention, laying the groundwork for her success in the entertainment industry. Jana's move into high-end venues marked the beginning of a new chapter. She found herself attracting a wealthier clientele, where the pay was higher and the networking opportunities were far greater. Gradually, she began receiving invitations to exclusive establishments in Las Vegas, elite clubs known for their upscale atmosphere, often frequented by well-known public figures. Working in these prestigious venues opened new doors for Jana. She started meeting wealthy, influential people and soon found herself invited to private events. Over time, her social circle expanded to include notable public figures, which helped her realize that she could leverage her appearance, lifestyle, and network to attract a larger audience. Jana saw the untapped potential of social media as a tool for self-promotion and personal branding. With this insight, she began focusing on building her online presence, primarily through Instagram, while also utilizing Snapchat and Twitter. Instagram proved to be the ideal platform for showcasing her image and lifestyle, and her popularity skyrocketed. Followers were captivated by her looks, luxurious lifestyle, and connections to celebrities. As time went on, Jana started appearing in the stories and posts of well-known personalities, further boosting her audience. Before long, her Instagram account reached 3 million followers, and she became a recognizable figure in the influencer world. This new status allowed her to generate income through brand collaborations, sponsorships, and promotions that aligned with her image. This phase of her life marked a significant transition. Jana was no longer just a woman working in the entertainment industry. She had become a media personality, someone people followed, talked about, and watched closely. As her social media fame continued to grow, Mercedes Moore began thinking about how to turn her massive following into a stable source of income. Sponsored content brought in money, but relying solely on platform algorithms and advertisers came with limitations. She wanted full control over her earnings and a more direct connection with her audience. It was around this time that she took notice of OnlyFans, a platform that allowed content creators to sell exclusive material to subscribers for a monthly fee. Mercedes saw how many models and influencers were achieving financial success on the site and decided to give it a try. After setting up her account, she immediately started promoting it to her followers. Those interested in exclusive content flocked to her page, and within a short period, her subscriber count skyrocketed. In just a few months, she had thousands of paying followers, and her earnings exceeded all expectations. Unlike brand deals, which depended on outside companies, OnlyFans provided Jana with a stable and predictable income. She was no longer tied to late-night shifts at clubs and could work on her own terms. Financial independence allowed her to make decisions that once seemed out of reach. As her earnings grew, Jana was able to completely step away from the entertainment industry. Her primary source of income was now online. She created content, managed her social media presence, and built her personal brand. Leaving the club scene was a conscious and significant decision for her. She no longer wanted to depend on clients, rigid schedules, or the demands of a nightlife-driven career. This newfound stability also had a positive impact on her personal life. Around this time, she began a relationship with a man who was not involved in show business or the entertainment world. He preferred to stay out of the public eye, and their relationship developed away from media attention and fan speculation. Those close to Mercedes noted that she seemed calmer and more self-assured. She could now afford to live in a private, upscale community, travel freely, and pursue projects that genuinely excited her. She had plans to launch her own clothing line and expand her personal brand. On the surface, this chapter of her life appeared to be her most successful: financial independence, personal happiness, and a thriving social media career. However, as her popularity grew, so did unforeseen dangers that she had underestimated. Among her growing fan base, some were not just fans, but individuals who believed they had a right to her attention. As she navigated her new life and career, she found herself increasingly at risk, unaware of the dangers that lay ahead. Millions of followers were not just devoted fans, but also individuals whose unhealthy obsessions could lead to serious consequences. The first warning signs came when personal details started appearing in the comments under her posts. Strangers mentioned the neighborhoods she lived in and listed places she frequently visited. At first, it seemed like a coincidence, but soon things spiraled out of control. One user even went as far as publicly posting her home address. What initially appeared to be isolated incidents quickly became a serious problem. Soon after, messages containing threats, inappropriate requests, and persistent demand for meetings began flooding her inbox. Strangers started showing up at her house, some arriving with gifts, hoping to get her attention, while others simply stood outside her gates, waiting for a glimpse of her. In some instances, people rang her doorbell, asking to be let in. Initially, she dismissed these incidents as isolated events, but the situation continued to escalate. Unknown individuals began lurking near her residence, waiting by her parking area and following her movements. She started noticing the same cars parked nearby at different times of the day. Her lifestyle began to change. She started going out less and became more cautious with her social media posts. Jana no longer tagged her location, avoided showing details of her home's interior, and took extra steps to prevent anyone from figuring out where she lived. The sense of security she once had was gone. Now, every knock at the door made her anxious, and unexpected noises put her on edge. At some point, Jan realized she couldn't continue living this way. She made the decision to move to a gated community in Houston. It seemed like the safest option: secured entry, surveillance cameras, and on-site security. Her new home was supposed to be her sanctuary, a place where no one could reach her without permission. She hoped this step would finally put an end to the unwanted attention. But even the highest fences couldn't protect her from what was about to happen. While Mercedes Moore was enjoying her success, someone was watching her from a distance, someone she had never met and didn't even know existed. His name was Kevin Accordo. He lived in Florida and led what seemed to be a normal life. He had no criminal history, held a job, and appeared to be just like millions of other people. But at some point, something in his mind shifted. Kevin became obsessed with Mercedes. He followed her every move through social media. Each new photo, every post, only deepened his fixation. She had no idea who he was. To her, he was just another follower among millions. But to him, she was the center of his world. Over time, his obsession turned into an unhealthy fixation. Kevin convinced himself that there was a special connection between them, even though they had never interacted. He studied her updates, analyzed her lifestyle, took note of the places she visited, and paid close attention to the people in her circle. At some point, simply watching from distance was no longer enough for him. He decided he had to meet her. Kevin started looking for ways to figure out where Mercedes lived. Even though she was careful not to share her exact location, small details in her posts gave him clues. He examined the backgrounds of her photos, compared interior elements to real estate listings, and combed through comments from followers, all in an attempt to pinpoint her address. The turning point came with one of her final posts. In the picture, a small detail, a glimpse of her front door, was visible. That was all Kevin needed. From this image, he was able to pinpoint the neighborhood. When a follower casually mentioned the name of the residential complex, he had his answer. Now, he knew exactly where to find her. Without hesitation, he got into his car and began the long drive to Texas. It was a journey spanning thousands of miles. He crossed multiple states, spending days on the road, but none of that mattered to him. He was convinced that this meeting would change everything. When Kevin Accordo arrived in Houston, his main goal was to get inside the gated community where Mercedes Moore lived. The area was secured with strict measures. The gated community where Mercedes lived boasted controlled access and on-site security. However, Kevin managed to bypass these protections. Law enforcement suspects that he may have slipped in behind a resident's vehicle as they entered the complex, or even posed as a delivery driver to avoid drawing attention. Surveillance footage captured him multiple times walking near her home, suggesting he was carefully surveying the area before making his move. There were no signs of forced entry, no broken windows or damaged doors. This led investigators to believe that Kevin may have waited at the entrance, forcing his way in when Mercedes opened the door. Another possibility was that he learned about a scheduled package delivery and used it as an excuse to get her to open up. Once inside, the situation quickly turned deadly. The attack was swift and brutal. The evidence suggested that Mercedes fought back with everything she had. Blood stains on the walls, floor, and furniture painted a vivid picture of a desperate struggle. She resisted until the very end, but Kevin had the physical advantage. Her injuries told the story of a vicious assault. Bruises and deep marks covered her body, indicating a prolonged and aggressive attack. The trauma suggested that she had suffered severe blows to the head. There was no firearm found at the scene, but authorities determined that the cause of death was asphyxiation. Kevin likely grabbed her by the neck and didn't let go until she stopped moving. After committing the crime, he didn't leave. Instead, he stayed in the apartment for 3 days, 72 hours living in the home of the person he had taken from this world. He slept in Mercedes's bed, ate from her refrigerator, and used her personal belongings. His fingerprints were all over the apartment, his presence imprinted in every room. During those 3 days, Kevin left disturbing writings on the walls, mirrors, and doors. Scribbled in red lipstick, the words were a collection of disjointed phrases, some expressing regret, others hinting at betrayal. There were cryptic messages about Mercedes allegedly wearing another man's ring. Investigators believe this pointed either to a severe mental breakdown or a deep sense of injustice that he felt. No one raised the alarm at first because Mercedes's family lived in another city. Concern only arose when she stopped responding to calls and messages. That was when her father, Mark G., decided to check on her in person. On the evening of August 29th, he arrived at her home and immediately sensed that something was wrong. Her car was still in the garage, meaning she hadn't left the complex. He walked up to the front door, rang the doorbell, and knocked, but there was no answer. Peering through the windows, he saw that the curtains were drawn and there was no sign of movement inside. Mark knocked again, louder this time, and rang the doorbell once more. Silence. He tried the doorknob, but the door was locked. Stepping back, he braced himself and threw his weight against the door. It didn't budge at first, but on the second attempt, the lock gave way and the door swung open. A strong, suffocating odor hit him instantly. The air inside was thick with decay. His stomach churned, but he forced himself to step inside. That's when his eyes locked onto the staircase. At the bottom, sprawled on the floor, was his daughter. Mark froze. Mercedes was lying face down, her body positioned unnaturally. Her clothes were stained with dried blood, and her skin was pale with her lips tinted a bluish hue. Mark couldn't move, couldn't look away. Time itself seemed to stop. Then suddenly, a dull noise came from upstairs. He snapped his head up, and in the dim light of the second floor, he saw a figure collapsed on the ground. The man's body trembled slightly, but within seconds, he went still. Without hesitation, Mark ran up the stairs. Inside one of the rooms, in a pool of blood, lay a man with a knife lodged in his chest. He was still alive, but his eyes were already losing focus. Mark didn't recognize him. He had never seen this man before. Looking around, he noticed the same red writings covering the walls, mirrors, and doors. The lipstick scrolls were uneven and smeared with erratic lettering, disturbing signs of a deeply disturbed mind. Among the messages, "I'm sorry. I was deceived. She wore another man's ring." As Mark tried to process the horrific scene before him, the man on the floor took one final breath, and then he was gone. Police arrived just minutes after receiving the call. As investigators surveyed the scene, they identified the deceased as Kevin Accordo, a Florida resident with no prior criminal record and no history of legal trouble. It was confirmed that Kevin had spent 3 days in the house after committing the crime. His actions suggested a deep psychological disturbance. He made no attempt to clean up the crime scene, nor did he try to escape. He simply waited. When the door opened and Mercedes' father stepped inside, Kevin realized his time had run out. Knowing there was no way out, he grabbed a knife and inflicted a fatal wound to his own chest. Paramedics attempted to save him, but he passed away on the spot. The investigation confirmed that Kevin had never met Mercedes. He wasn't an acquaintance, they had never spoken, and there was no personal connection between them. The only link that existed was entirely in his mind. Piece by piece, police reconstructed the events. A man had stalked her through social media, tracked down her location, traveled thousands of miles to find her, broken into her home, taken her life, and then lived in her space as if she were still there. The truth was finally uncovered, but it changed nothing. As news of Mercedes Moore's tragic death made headlines, the public reaction was immediate. The case sparked widespread discussion, quickly gaining traction in both mainstream media and social platforms. However, almost as soon as the news broke, misinformation followed. False reports flooded the internet. Some sources claimed her passing was due to an overdose of prohibited substances, while others suggested she had died from COVID-19. Speculative rumors circulated about her health, with claims that she had a serious illness and that complications had led to her death. Then, an even more bizarre theory emerged, one that alleged Mercedes had lost her life during an intimate encounter. This rumor gained traction after unverified claims surfaced about how her body had been found. None of these rumors were based on fact. Official sources quickly dismissed the false narratives, confirming that her death was the result of a premeditated crime linked to stalking. With the full picture now clear, law enforcement had no further doubts. The perpetrator was gone, leaving no trial, no legal proceedings, and no sentence. Kevin Accordo had evaded justice by taking his own life, leaving Mercedes's family with an overwhelming sense of unfairness. For her loved ones, it meant that no one would be held accountable. There would be no conviction, no punishment that could bring even a fraction of closure. All that remained were scattered pieces of evidence, signs of struggle, the cryptic writings on the walls, and questions that would never be answered. Her family was devastated. Mark G., her father, was the first to see her lifeless body. The trauma of that moment never left him. He spoke openly about how his mind constantly replayed that night, walking into his daughter's home and finding her gone. Her younger sisters lost more than a sibling. They lost their guiding figure, the person they looked up to. Her mother struggled to cope, crushed by the weight of what had happened. Despite their grief, the family made a decision. They would do everything they could to keep Mercedes's memory alive. Her father took to the media, speaking out about the dangers of stalking and the need for influencers to take their safety seriously. He wanted his daughter's story to serve as a warning to others. Thanks for watching, everyone. Your support means a lot to me, and you can help my channel grow by hitting that like button, dropping a comment, and sharing this video. Your engagement really makes a difference. See you soon.